Come with us as we explore the depths of the sea.
There's a lot of cool stuff going on in the ocean. It's one of my personal favorite topics. And I'm always looking to learn new things, even if there is some mystery behind them.
Did you learn anything today?
I did.
Sweet.
I did actually, yeah.
Do share.
I will. Stay tuned.
Is there any ocean creature more intimidating and ferocious than the great white shark? The apex predator of the sea? Well, apparently yes. Back in 2003, scientists tagged this massive great white shark. They were studying temperature changes in the ocean. Well, several months passed, and the researchers found the shark's tag washed up on shore in Australia. They took a look at the tag's information, which revealed that about 4 months after they had tagged the shark, it had suddenly plunged 1,900 feet below. There was also a sudden spike in the shark's temperature, so it looked like something had attacked the shark and dragged it down before, putting it in its mouth. So the question was, what the hell had managed to attack and consume a 9-foot great white shark? Now, there are rare cases of cannibal great whites, and there are great white sharks that are much larger than 9 feet, so that was a possibility. Again, that's rare though. Great whites usually don't attack one another. Another possibility is that something else attacked the shark. Something else that we'd never want to run into.
Next up, we've got eggs and active volcanoes. In July of 2022, marine researchers decided to explore an ancient deep-sea volcano off Canada's Pacific coastline. And what they found was pretty cool. First of all, they discovered that the 3,600 foot tall volcano, 1,100 meters, was actually still active. And second of all, that it was covered in around 1 million eggs the size of American footballs. What kind of eggs? Skate eggs. And no, I'm not referring to a hockey player's breakfast, but rather a little-known sea creature closely related to sharks and rays. The specific skates on the volcano are Pacific white skates, and they're super cool to look at. These creatures, along with many others living around the volcano, are able to survive and thrive because of the warm, nutrient-rich waters produced by the active volcano. The mystery here is how the hell this thing has stayed active for so long. How did we not know about it until now, and what else is out there? I bet James has some answers.
1968 was not a good year to be in a submarine. That year, 4 subs vanished, all within a relatively short time frame. The subs were the Israeli INS Dakar, the French Minerva, the Soviets K-129, and finally, America's USS Scorpion. Now, we don't know exactly what happened to these submarines, but this was the Cold War, so there's a good chance the fate of the US and Soviet subs had something to do with that. The Israeli sub ceased communication on January 25th of that year though, and the wreckage wasn't found until 1999. And just 2 days after the Israeli sub had originally gone missing, the Minerva vanished in the waters off Toulon in southern France. It was just an hour away from port, and this one wasn't found until 2019.
Next up, we've got the mysterious methane leak of the deep blue sea. Doesn't sound ominous or damning at all. Not. In August of 2022, researchers discovered that a massive amount of methane was bubbling up from the bottom of the deepest point in the Baltic Sea. You know, where the Baltic Sea anomaly that may or may not be an alien spaceship lies. But I digress. The team in charge of monitoring the methane reported that it was, and I quote, basically bubbling everywhere, covering an area of roughly 7.7 square miles or 20 square kilometers, which is around 4,000 soccer fields. And it's all happening at a depth of about 1,300 feet or 400 meters. Whole lot of numbers going on here. Anyways, researchers believe that the methane is coming from a large amount of decaying organic matter lying on the seafloor. But there's a lot of methane, so at this point in time, they aren't 100% sure. And they also have absolutely no clue as to why it is rising so high up. So it looks like we've got a mystery on our hands.
Back in 2015, the EV Nautilus, a San Pedro-based research vessel, discovered something pretty insane in the Gulf of Mexico, an incredibly deadly underwater lake 3,300 feet below the surface. It's this pit of high salinity water and dissolved methane, and anything that goes too close doesn't make it out alive. They just get pickled. The underwater lake formed millions of years ago when the area was much shallower and covered in salt beds left behind by evaporating water. Over time, these salt layers got buried under sediments, and the pressure caused cracks, allowing oil, gas, and super salty brine to seep out. This brine is so salty and dense that it doesn't mix well with the surrounding seawater. Instead, it forms its own underwater lakes, rivers, and even waterfalls. And around the edges of this brine pool, mussels really thrive actually. They cling to the mineral deposits, and these mussels have a special relationship with bacteria that live on their gills. The bacteria use gases like methane and hydrogen sulfide, which seep from the ocean floor to produce energy for the mussels. Now, while the mussels can live near the brine pool, the brine itself is extremely toxic to most sea life. It contains very little oxygen and high levels of harmful chemicals like hydrogen sulfide and methane. Any fish or sea creature that ventures into the brine is quickly killed and preserved by the super salty water, which is 4 times saltier than the surrounding ocean. It's really cool. You look at images of this place and there's all these like crabs that have been sitting there for like who knows how long. It's like a graveyard. This next story comes to us from Reddit, and although what this person saw wasn't technically under the water, it was floating just above it, and it's a pretty fascinating account. The story comes to us from user Keslo, who writes, I used to live in Charleston, South Carolina back around 2006, and I had a job that had me leaving home at about 4 a.m. I lived in a bad part of town near the International Airport Joint Base, so when I left, I did a scan of the area before getting into my car. One morning I stepped out of my home to do my scan and noticed that there were thin wispy clouds flowing in off the ocean. Basically, it was a thin fog about 1,000 to 1,500 feet up, moving like a river. I also noticed at this point that there were 2 effing moons. One is obscured by the thin clouds, our real moon, and the other is most definitely under the clouds. It was a sphere of glowing white light. It made no sound and did not move. After about 2 minutes, it bolted eastward towards the ocean. The glowing light faded quickly right as it took off as well. I've seen planes move near the speed of sound, and this thing went from 0 to like 3,000 miles per hour instantly. No acceleration. Much faster than the speed of sound with no sonic boom. I hope I don't see it again, especially on the water. I always wondered if it bolted because they saw me watching them. Next up, we have the strange reports of a large disc-like object being spotted in the Indian Ocean. Apparently, as far back as 1873, ships sailing the Indian Ocean from the Persian Gulf to the South China Sea have reported spotting a massive mile-wide disc passing beneath their boats, accompanied by large, like rotating lights. One of the earliest documented sightings happened on March 23rd of 1873, when the ship Adelaide traversed the South China Sea. Witnesses reported floating over a huge, glowing circular object beneath the ocean's surface. On May 15th, 1879, the crew of the HMS Vulture described the sighting of 2 large Ferris wheels spinning in opposite directions. The spokes of these wheels were reported to be 25 feet wide, with 100 feet of space between them. There have been tons of these reports in various locations in the Indian Ocean, over the years. On April 4th, 1901, for example, in the Persian Gulf, the crew of the SS Kilwa claimed to see rays of light emanating from an underwater disc-like object. And even in 1943, in the Persian Gulf, a sailor named Matthew Mangle reported a huge glowing disc beneath the water's surface, pacing his ship. And these are just a handful of examples. And coming in at second place is the Michigan Stonehenge. So in 2007, a professor of underwater archaeology, Mark Hawley, made a pretty incredible discovery. It was this arrangement of stones lying on the lake bed, looking a lot like Stonehenge in England. The stones are laid out in a circular pattern, and some even appear to be arranged in a line. They're about 40 feet below the surface of the lake. So what was the purpose of this formation? Could it be the remnants of an an ancient civilization? Could extraterrestrials have constructed it thousands of years ago? They look like they've been placed in a pretty precise pattern. Doesn't look to be natural forming to me. And of course, there's also a rock with a mastodon carved into it. Hard to believe something like that would be created naturally. What's also really fascinating is that these stones are believed to be about 9,000 years old, predating Stonehenge by about 4,000 years. And finally, it's only natural that we finish things off with what has to be the most famous strange object discovered deep beneath the sea, the Baltic Sea anomaly. So back in the summer of 2011, a team of Swedish treasure hunters didn't come across any treasure in terms of monetary gain anyway, but they did find something pretty cool, a sonar image that seems to show a strange UFO-like object on the sea floor. Peter Lindbergh, the leader of the treasure hunting team, would be so awesome just to be able to say you're the leader of a treasure hunting team. I could say that and I'd just be like digging through my backyard finding nothing. But this guy actually goes out on boats and submarines and does it. I didn't get that job. Anyway, he's the leader of Ocean X and was pretty astonished by what he had found, saying the object definitely didn't look like a natural formation. And even though a number of researchers have come out and said it probably is a natural formation, I still get excited looking at this thing. I don't know, I'm just not entirely convinced. I'm on the fence about this one. But what do you guys think? Alien craft, ancient artifact, just some mundane natural formation? Let us know down in them comments.
Next up, we've got the world's loneliest fish, aka the deepest dwelling fish, which just so happens to look incredibly cool. The species, believed to be an unknown species of snailfish, was discovered in April of last year, 2023. Scientists were able to capture video of the fish feeding in the Izu Ugasawara Trench near Japan at a depth of 27,349 feet. It was a groundbreaking discovery for marine researchers who up until then had only ever seen fish at a depth of about 500 feet above where this species was found. So how the heck do these fish survive at a depth packing such immense pressure that it would cause you and I to crumple up like a shiny ball of tinfoil? Well, I'll tell you. Snailfish are incredibly adaptive, so adaptive in fact that they have replaced their scales with a gelatinous layer that helps to absorb the pressure. And their chemical makeup has adapted to protect their cells from the pressure as well, so they're pretty much set. But it begs the question of whether or not we find an even deeper fish with even more gelatinous bits next year. Here's hoping.
Can't do a deep sea mystery video without mentioning at least one shipwreck, and this one is very intriguing because it seemed like there was some sort of bad energy attached to it. In the Gulf of Mexico, once again, there's a shipwreck that seems to bring nothing but bad luck to anyone who tries to explore it. ExxonMobil discovered this wreck while laying down a pipeline, and that was the last bit of good fortune they had near the site. When a team was put together to check out the wreck, everything started going wrong. Their exploration submarine malfunctioned just as it was about to dive. Problems ranged from video monitors failing every time they turned on the thrusters, to the sonar breaking down and the hydraulics going crazy, one after another. Then the Navy got involved and sent their own research submarine. This sub had its own set of issues as well. It pretty much destroyed its own rover as soon as it hit the water, and when it finally reached the wreck, its robotic arms were too short to grab anything of use. And these are just a few examples of the long list of failed attempts to explore the wreck. It seems like anyone who tries to get close to it is doomed to fail in some bizarre or frustrating way.
Next up, we have some unusual behaviors being displayed by a new mother. In June of 2022, marine researchers witnessed something they had never seen before while tracking a female squid who had just given birth in the waters of Monterey Bay, California. The mama squid was observed carrying her babies. Why is this strange? Well, because up until now, squids have only ever been observed abandoning their babies. Not in a CPS way though, it's just not in their nature to care for their young. And it has always been believed that once a squid lays its eggs, it leaves them to develop on their own. But of course, now there is video evidence proving that that is not always the case. Scientists observing the behavior speculated that maybe the mother was spooked, perhaps by the remotely controlled rover used to observe her, and she felt as though she needed to take extra precautions precaution to ensure the safety of her offspring. But at the end of the day, they didn't ask her, so we really don't know the answer.
We've all heard about the legend of Atlantis. Well, Japan may have an Atlantis of its very own, Yonaguni Monument. This mysterious structure was discovered in 1986 by diver Kihachiro Aretake off the coast of Yonaguni Island in Japan. It's been heavily debated as to whether this place was naturally forming or not ever since. It's located about 60 feet beneath the ocean's surface. The monument consists of these massive stone blocks arranged in a way that really does look like it was done deliberately. You see what look like terraces and steps, all these columns and walls. The main structure is something that almost looks like a pyramid. This was why it's known as the Yonaguni Monument. And ever since these formations were first discovered, there's been this idea floating around, no pun intended, that the Yonaguni Monument is part of the remnants of a sunken city belonging to some prehistoric advanced civilization, like the lost continent of Mu, for example, dating back around 10,000 years. Mu's existence has never been 100% verified, and it's kind of in the same vein as Atlantis or Lemuria, but folks like university professor and researcher Masaki Kimura believe that the precision and arrangement of the stone blocks go far beyond what could occur naturally, and that these formations are likely from an ancient human settlement now submerged beneath the waves. But there are plenty of skeptics on the other side who say that it's all just formed naturally. They argue that the formations are more likely a result of some tectonic activity, erosion. People are just looking too deeply into it. Pareidolia, we look at things we don't understand and we go, oh, that looks like a house or a column of some kind, stairs. Well, I don't know. Personally, I look at these photos and I don't know, those look like stairs to me. But what do you guys all think?
And finally, to finish us off today, we have the mystery that is, how the hell are animals able to survive and actually thrive on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, aka the GPGP? In 2018, while studying debris collected from what is essentially a floating island made of garbage, two scientists noticed something strange. Very tiny marine animals including crabs and anemones, animals that are normally seen on beaches and along the coast. So how the heck did they end up all the way out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? No one actually knows. As a general rule of thumb, the open ocean is not at all a suitable environment for small animals such as crabs and anemones because there is not a lot of shelter to help them defend against predators. But now, all of a sudden, it seems as though these small animals have found shelter in our old bottle caps and chip bags. But again, how did they get there? Because surely these animals would not have been able to swim all the way out into the open ocean and then all the way up to the garbage patch. And yet it appears as though a whole new thriving ecosystem does very much exist there. Of course, it's possible that these animals latched onto the plastic when it first entered the ocean and then held on for months as it journeyed out to the GPGP, but again, that doesn't really line up with previously observed behaviors. Really, the whole thing is just one big what's going on to science and scientists.
In our number 8 spot today we have the Kaz 2. The Kaz 2 was a 12-meter long catamaran that set sail on April 15th of 2007 and was found adrift just 3 days later on April 18th, but without her crew. When the ship set sail, she was carrying 3 crew members, all of which were relatively inexperienced sailors. On April 18th, someone in a helicopter reported seeing the adrift ship, but it wasn't until April 20th that maritime authorities were able to catch up with the boat and boarded it. It was then, however, that they uncovered the bizarre circumstances on this ship. Everything on the ship was perfectly normal, aside from the fact that the crew had just seemingly vanished. There was a meal set on the table waiting to be eaten, a laptop was open and on, the engine was still running, all of the life vests were still on board, and all of the ship's emergency systems were fully functioning. The only out of place things were, of course, the missing crew, the fact that one of the ship's sails was badly shredded, and there was no life raft on board, but it is still unclear whether there was ever one on board. There are many theories as to what may have happened to the crew, but none none have ever been substantiated or confirmed, which leaves the fate of the 3 crew members a complete mystery that we may never get the answers to. In our number 7 spot today, we have the disappearance of Bas Jan Adder. Bas Jan Adder was a Dutch conceptual and performance artist as well as a skilled sailor. He set sail on July 9th, 1975 in a ship called the Ocean Wave as he was setting sail to make his single-handed west to east coast crossing of the North Atlantic. He estimated that this trip was going to take around 2.5 months, but it wasn't until 9 months after he set sail that his boat was found unmanned, floating almost vertically in the water. The people who found the ship were Spanish fishermen who then took the boat back to Spain, where it ended up being stolen. Throughout all of this, Baz was nowhere to be found, and even still, over 40 years later, the mystery of what exactly happened remains. There are people who speculate he fell overboard in heavy bad weather, but this is of course impossible to tell, especially with neither the boat or Baz to provide evidence. The information to go on has only been what was provided by the people who saw the boat before it was stolen, so of course that is not nearly enough to really have any questions answered. What happened to Baz on his sailing trip is still a mystery, but I do hope one day we find out at least some answers. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Gulf of Mexico wreck. For almost 2 centuries, this shipwreck went undiscovered and undisturbed until the early 2000s when a pipeline bisected it, and since then it has been plaguing those who are trying to figure out what mysteries it holds. A team was assembled in order to try and search the wreckage, but every time they attempted, something went wrong that made it impossible for them. Every time they tried, the exploration sub would malfunction right before they were able to begin checking it out. Like, I'm talking about everything, from video monitors going out whenever they fired the thrusters, to the sonar breaking, to hydraulics going haywire, one after another. After this whole ordeal, the Navy sent a research sub that pretty much just ended up self-destructing its own rover once it got into the water, and when it made its way to the wreck, its arms were too short to reach anything to collect. So this is all to say that it seems like whatever mysteries this shipwreck is holding, they are destined to remain as such. I'm starting to think that maybe this shipwreck is cursed. In our number 5 spot today, we have the disappearance of George Smith. George Allen Smith and his wife Jennifer Hagel Smith had just married and were aboard the MS Brilliance of the Seas, which is a Royal Caribbean cruise ship, as they were doing a Mediterranean cruise for their honeymoon. On July 5th, 2005, the ship was somewhere just off of the coast of Turkey when it was discovered that George had disappeared. The night he was last seen, he was intoxicated from both alcohol as well as prescription drugs, and there was blood evidence found in his cabin as well on the side of the ship. There were 2 main theories in regards to his disappearance, the first being that his intoxication led to him falling overboard the ship, and the other was that perhaps a robbery had gone bad and foul play had been involved. This case was investigated for over a decade, with even the FBI and their mafia division getting involved at one point, but despite this, neither George, his body, or what really happened to him has ever been found. There have been many assumptions made over the years, but 16 years later, it is still a mystery. In our number 4 spot today, we have the MV Tai Ching 21. On November 9th, 2008, a Taiwanese fishing vessel was found floating, but it was empty and had been totally gutted by fire. The 50-ton ship had obviously suffered a fire, but since there was no smoke anymore, it was clear it had been a few days since the fire was put out. Upon inspecting the ship, it was realized that the ship's lifeboat, along with its 3 life rafts, were missing, not to mention the crew of 29 missing men. The last transmission from the radio of the ship was on October 28th, but after that, nothing had been heard from the members of the crew and there was no mayday call ever received. The search for the missing men spanned 21,000 square miles or 54,000 square kilometers, and searches were conducted by both the US Air Force as well as the New Zealand Air Force, but unfortunately the search turned up no results. The last radio transmission from the ship was a personal call from the captain to his wife, which took place on that October 25th, but that was the last time anyone had heard. There still hasn't been any sign of the missing 29 crew members, which of course is absolutely devastating. It is clear they must have abandoned the ship after the fire started, but their fate from there remains completely unknown. In our number 3 spot today, we have the disappearance of Rebecca Corium. Rebecca Corium was a British crew member and youth worker on the Disney Wonder cruise ship in 2011. In the early morning hours of March 22nd, Rebecca was seen on CCTV footage in the crew lounge speaking to someone on the telephone, and it appears as though the conversation was a bit emotionally distressing for her. A few hours later, people began to worry because Rebecca hadn't shown up for the start of her shift, which was really unlike her, and when people went to go and see if maybe she had slept in or something like that, they were unable to locate her anywhere on the ship, which of course made people even more worried. That CCTV footage of Rebecca is the last known sighting of her, and since then no one has been able to figure out where she went or what happened to her. The first assumption was of course that perhaps she had gone overboard, and it prompted extensive searches of the waters in the area, but unfortunately nothing turned up. Almost an entire year after her disappearance, someone emailed Rebecca's family to say that she was 85% sure she had seen Rebecca with a man on the streets of Venice, but unfortunately this potential lead didn't turn up any real evidence or clues. Many people state that perhaps Disney Cruise Lines know more about what really happened, as other crew members have suggested that the entire ship is covered with so many cameras that there's no way that whatever happened could have been missed, but of course there's no evidence that has been discovered which would prove these allegations. It has been 10 years since Rebecca's extremely mysterious disappearance, and still no one knows exactly what happened on that terrible night. Hopefully one day some answers are found so Rebecca's family can get the closure that they deserve. In our number 2 spot today we have the disappearance of Jim Gray. Jim Gray was an incredibly important computer scientist who was responsible for many computer advancements that changed things for all of us. Other than being a computer scientist, he was also an experienced and skilled sailor, and one day on January 28, 2007, he set sail for a short trip so he could head out and spread his mother's ashes, as she had recently passed away. As he began his trip, Jim spoke to his wife on the phone and said he would call her once he got back in range. After their phone call, he called his daughter as well and left a little message for her, and then he was off on his trip, but unfortunately he never ended up returning. Jim's wife Donna was the one who raised the alarm bells as she was away on a trip, but like I mentioned, Jim said he would call her later, and he never did. At this point is when the huge searches began. Thousands of images of the area where Jim or his boat might be were uploaded to Amazon Mechanical Turk for people to look through and see if they could find any kind of signs, but to no avail. Jim also had an automatic emergency position indicating beacon on his ship, but whatever happened to Jim and the ship clearly didn't meet the requirements, or perhaps it had some sort of malfunction, or maybe it was even turned off. To this day, no one knows what happened to Jim or his boat, as no sign or trace of either has ever been found. The theories of what may have happened are endless and range from Jim intentionally disappearing to him being kidnapped for his computer skills and brain in order to do some kind of inside job, and really everything in between. There most definitely are theories that are seemingly more likely than others, but at the end of the day, they are all a possibility. In 2012, Jim's widow asked the court to declare him dead in absentia, which ended up being granted, so as of 2012, Jim has been declared dead, but that does not mean that he is. In our number 1 spot today we have the disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley. On March 21st, 1998, Amy and her family boarded the Rhapsody of the Seas, which is a Royal Caribbean cruise ship en route to Curacao. On March 24th, after a fun night on the ship, Amy was hanging out and having a couple of drinks with the ship's band, and one of the members explained that she parted ways with them around 1 a.m. After this, around 5:15 a.m., Amy's father said he saw her sleeping on the cabin balcony. Unfortunately, however, once 6 a.m. rolled around, she wasn't there anymore, and this was the beginning of the mystery. Once it was realized that Amy was missing, extensive searches were launched for full days before they ended up being called off when no signs or traces of Amy had ever been found. While this is all super mysterious and nobody really had anything to go on, the plot only thickens with this story. After her disappearance, people began to report seeing Amy. One sighting was by Canadian tourists in 1998 who said that they had seen a woman who resembled Amy and who had tattoos that matched hers on a beach in Curacao. A member of the United States Navy said that he saw her in a brothel and said that she told him her name was Amy and she asked for help, saying she wasn't allowed to leave. The most recent alleged sighting comes in 2005 when a woman claimed she saw Amy in a department store in Barbados Barbados. She said that Amy entered the restroom with 3 men who then threatened her if she didn't follow through on some sort of deal. The men left briefly, and the witness said the woman turned to her, said that her name was Amy and that she was from Virginia and needed help, but the men returned right after to take her away again. This story is devastatingly sad and has so many turns, and to this day no one knows exactly what happened to Amy or if these witness sightings are accurate at all.
Number 10. Waterworld. Now if you've seen Avatar 2, this first one on today's list will get you pretty pumped. Could this be Jake Sully himself? Can we help him? What do we do? Can I be a big blue guy? Be a dream come true. Scientists have recently discovered a planet completely covered by ocean water. It's just one big blue ball floating in the sky. Now it sounds exciting and haunting all at the same time. I'm not a big fan of ocean, so this is just bad. Or space. I don't like either. This is a mix of both. It was first spotted by NASA's space telescope TESS, which is the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, TESS, which, as its name hint towards, surveys the entire sky to find, hopefully, exoplanets around nearby bright stars. Some interstellar stuff going on there. Why do we need to know, right? Are we moving? Lo and behold, orbiting a star 100 light years from Earth lies a water planet in a habitable zone of space, where its temperature would be just right for liquid water to exist on the surface, and apparently might be a tropical paradise. I don't know, looks kind of fun. Astronomers have called TOI 1452b, that's the name of the planet, the best ocean planet candidate discovered so far. I don't know, should we move? I'm not a big fan of water. This sounds like the worst place for me. TESS observes a slight decrease in brightness of a star in a binary star system every 11 days, and then after more than 50 hours of observation, they estimated the planet's mass at nearly 5 times that of Earth. So yeah, it's massive. There's plenty of room for all of us to drown. Number 9. Slow down. Let's come back to our world, shall we, for the next few? Slow down was recorded on May 19th, 1997. Now this signal was picked up in the equatorial Pacific Ocean, just in the middle of nowhere, which is the odd part here. See, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, they picked it up not once, but several times every year since its initial discovery. Now our best guess as to what the sound is maybe, hopefully, moving ice in Antarctica. But the fascinating part here is that the sound decreases in frequency over time. So something's changing, something's moving around. Like that fan up there, it's moving around, something's in that fan. It's like there's a guy up there, I'm pretty sure. It takes about 7 minutes in total, so we can't include the entire clip or else you'd be pretty bored in this video. But here's that clip 16 times as fast, so you know what we're talking about. Scientists believe that the sound is a massive iceberg scratching against the ocean floor over the course of that 7 minutes until it came to a stop, which is pretty crazy. But the fact that we hear this sound every year, well, that's the weird part. That's why it's on this list today. Could it be the Kraken? Maybe it's from that episode of SpongeBob where they're sliding that big rock. Good times. Number 8, sirens, aka mermaids. Can they sing? Can they call out to sailors and make them do crazy stuff? Who knows? The mythology surrounding sirens, it's interesting, but I really don't think we have any Atlanteans flirting with sailors. You know what I mean? No one's getting catcalled by a mermaid. You know what I mean? It's not happening. On his first trip overseas back in 1493, Christopher Columbus claims to have seen not 1, not 2, but 3 sirens. He even wrote about it. He journaled. He said they rose well out of the sea, but they are not so beautiful as they are said to be. And he signed off. A little rhyme. What is that, Dr. Seuss? How disappointing. They're not that beautiful after all. Damn. I mean, when it comes to correctly identifying places and or people, obviously Christopher Columbus can get a little confused. We know this in history now. So historians believe that Christopher Columbus may have seen a manatee. Yeah, this guy's journaling about falling in love with not 1, not 2, but 3 manatees. He's like, I wish. If only they loved me back. What an idiot. Yeah, Chris, those were manatees. Their skin is pink and fleshy, so I guess it's a fair mix-up. But, you know, historically sirens have been known to call out sailors, but I mean, I don't think this wasn't that case. Number 7, quacker. Now, when I first read about this one, I thought it said Quaker the entire time, like the ground was perhaps splitting open, like an earthquake. That would fit in with this list, right? No, Mother Nature sending loud signals from below. Apparently I was reading it wrong. The quacker was heard during the Cold War. It was heard while Soviet Navy ballistic missile submarines were all heading through the North Atlantic and Arctic waters. Now, at some point, they heard quacking. Yeah, quacking, like a duck almost, some sort of deep ribbit. Now, whenever a submarine passed this this specific area, this loud quack would come from deep below. It came from an object that was moving around, so that's the concerning part here. Was this a big duck? I don't think so. But what was it? That's the whole thing, right? I certainly hope it wasn't a big duck. The Soviets thought that they overheard secret US tech. You know, the deep sea duck. I've heard rumors about this. We gotta get out of here. No, we have no idea. There were still no answers provided. Scientists currently believe that it came from a giant squid, which is way more terrifying than a duck. And it's also somehow more alarming than the ocean floor cracking open for me. I don't know. Cracking open, kraken, crack. Oh, shit. Number 6, sounds of Marianas Trench. Okay, hold your breath for this next one, folks, and turn the volume up. Why not? The Challenger Deep is the deepest known point on Earth's seabed. My ears are popping just thinking about this already. This is a nightmare. The Challenger Deep is of course located at the south side of the Marianas Trench in the Pacific. Now, you may not witness this depression up close at any point in your life, but thanks to the internet, now you can hear it. Scientists recorded around 23 days of material on the ocean floor. And it's not just bubbles, it's more trouble. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on down there. Only 4 manned missions have ever been this deep, the last one being 2012. Now the results here were pretty surprising, being as deep as they were. The sounds were honestly haunting. Oceanographer Robert Ziak was leading this project, and many of these sounds recorded were those from the surface. Which is a weird thing to say, but hear me out. Sound travels quite a ways, and to quote Ziak, the ambient sound field is dominated by the sound of earthquakes, both near and far, as well as distant moans of baleen whales and the clamor of a Category 4 typhoon that just happened to pass overhead. So yeah, it's a lot happening at once. Take a listen.
With Point Dume underwater base. So off the coast of Point Dume in Malibu, there seems to be this mysterious structure lying about 6 miles underwater. Images captured on Google Earth show an oval-shaped object resting on the seabed floor. Looks like it has a large flat top and what seems to be pillars or columns. Looking at it, it definitely looks like the entrance to something. It sits about 2,000 feet beneath the ocean surface, spanning nearly 3 miles in width, and some speculate that it could be more than just a naturally formed structure. And yes, some even think it could be an underwater alien base. Jimmy Church, who hosts a California-based radio show called Fade to Black, was pretty excited about the images, stating, "My first impression was that it was Greek. It looked artificial and didn't look natural. When you're looking at it from above, it's a nearly perfect oval shape. In the natural surroundings, nothing is symmetrical. Everything is eroded and covered in rocks and sloping and peaking. And right here, for 2 miles, it is a perfect oval with a black separation or outline to it. It just stands out that it has to be some type of roof. It's not unlike a dome stadium or a covered indoor racetrack or an Olympic arena. It's got that feel to it. It looks like a perfect oval man-made structure sitting on a construction site." Next up, we have the Solomon Islands UFOs. There have been some very strange things said to go on here for hundreds and hundreds of years, and not only have locals claimed to see strange lights in the sky, but also coming up from under the water as well, which has led to a pretty intense theory that there could be an underwater alien base there. There have always been local legends of monstrous giants on the islands, 10-foot tall, hairy creatures with flat noses and glowing red eyes. That, combined with the reports of strange lights in the sky, moving with incredible speed and agility, could mean there may be some kind of connection here. You see, some of these lights and strange flying objects have been seen descending down into the trees of the Guadalcanal or rising up from the ocean and zipping around before diving back down. There are also legends that these giants that are said to live on the island move around through subterranean tunnels. So some speculate that beneath the surface of the ocean is this hidden structure where extraterrestrial beings may be conducting their activities. Next up, we have Hy Brasil, a small mythological island off the coast of Ireland. According to Celtic folklore, this island is said to lie off the west coast of the country, appearing only every 7 years, usually surrounded by mist. The island is often described as a paradise with advanced technology and a society living in total harmony with nature. Sailors and explorers have reported spotting the island for centuries, claiming to have seen seen strange creatures and these glowing god-like beings there. Maps from the 14th to the 19th centuries often included Hy-Brasil, but its exact location was always a bit of a mystery. Now, of course, it sounds like complete folklore, which Celtic culture is absolutely full of, but what if there's something else going on here? Well, some have suggested that the islands appearing and disappearing could have an extraterrestrial connection. The idea is that aliens could be using advanced cloaking technology or have a hidden base on or beneath the island, and the mysterious creatures that some sailors claimed to have seen on the island do sound like they could be alien-like, but it's still a total mystery as to what they'd be doing over there. Next up on the list, we have strange skulls that were found in an underwater cave in Mexico. So in 2012, divers were exploring a cenote and the Yucatan Peninsula where they came across two chambers full of human bones, and some of these bones were human skulls, but there was something off about them. They were elongated. Now, the ancient Maya were said to have performed human sacrifices in the area, and skull deformation was also practiced in various parts of Mexico way back when. There are theories as to why, but nothing entirely concrete. One idea is that high-ranking members of society had elongated skulls. Some say that people's skulls were elongated just to differentiate certain groups from one another, but there's also the theory that these skulls never belonged to human beings at all. Pretty common knowledge, of course, that there are tons of conspiracy theories surrounding the ancient Maya, including the presence of extraterrestrials that may have helped them construct all their intricate advanced cities. So could these skulls have belonged to these supposed alien beings? It's possible. Next up, we have the Lake Baikal incident. So this lake in southern Siberia is the world's largest freshwater lake by volume. It's incredibly deep, and there are some pretty eerie stories about it. First of all, there's all the mysterious lights that are reported, not just hovering or flying above it, but also coming from the depths of the water. And there's a very creepy story that was supposedly an attempted cover-up by the Russian government. So in 1982, a team of Navy divers were doing a routine diving exercise in the lake when a number of them started spotting something pretty disturbing. There were all these figures deep under the water. They were tall and slender, well over 6 feet tall, and wearing what looked to be silver suits. Those suits could have also been silvery scales. They also had large, circular, glowing, unblinking eyes. The creatures began chasing after the divers, or swimming after them, rather, and the divers panicked and then swam back up to the surface, and they reported what they'd seen to their superiors, but that's where the story ends. The existence of the strange creatures has never been confirmed or denied. Next up, we have underwater alien bases in Alaska. So claims of alleged alien bases lurking beneath the waters off the coast of Alaska have been around for quite a while, but in recent years, the idea of them has become more of a popular thing, mostly thanks to Ancient Aliens. Thank you, Ancient Aliens. But apparently, there are even eyewitness accounts dating back several decades, which have been mostly undisclosed until recently. UFOologists and UFO enthusiasts have now been turning their attention to the mysterious activities in the waters of Alaska. One incident dates back to 1945 when crew members of a ship reported spotting an unidentified craft. Researchers, including members of MUFON, or the Mutual UFO Network, which is a non-profit organization that studies reported UFO sightings, they think it's possible that extraterrestrial beings have been constructing bases beneath the ocean's surface, and that's because there are tons of reports of UFO movements over the water. There were also a number of UFO sightings in the 40s that weren't disclosed to the public at the time. These undisclosed reports allegedly provide evidence that there are extraterrestrial entities operating in the waters off the coast of Alaska.
Starting off this countdown, we have the giant cannibal shark. Sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. Honestly, maybe it is. So in 2003, scientists tagged a 9-foot-long great white shark. They did this in order to study the temperature changes in the ocean. Here's the thing. Several months later, the tag washed up on shore. The shark, nowhere to be seen. They checked the information on the tag, and that's when they were shocked. About 4 months after the tag was put on the shark, it dove to around 1,900 feet. They believe that's because the shark was attacked and eaten by something. But what creature in the ocean is going around eating a 9-foot-long great white shark? They still don't know. It could be a massive sea creature that we haven't found yet. Or they think it might be an even bigger shark, making it a massive cannibal shark. If you're not afraid of the ocean yet, then this for sure has done it for you. Coming in at number 9, we have the lost city of Atlantis. There's a city that lies sunken underwater just off the coast of the Japanese island Yonaguni, making it Japan's very own Atlantis. Many people believe that the city is around 5,000 years old. There are complete pyramids, ruins of a castle, structures etched with faces, and rock sculptures that look like animals all underwater. It's theorized that a terrible earthquake caused the city to be engulfed by water. But to this day, we don't know the true origins of this mysterious underwater city. Conspiracy theorists believe that the CIA destroyed this island in order to expand America's economic zone. Unless we travel back in time, there's no way to find out more about the city and what happened to it. Coming in at number 8, we have Carroll A. Deering, aka the ghost ship of the Outer Banks. So on January 31st, 1921, the Carroll A. Deering was found abandoned off of Cape Hatteras in North Carolina. The crew was nowhere to be found. On top of that, tons of stuff was missing from the ship, including the crew's personal belongings, life rafts, logbooks, and navigational equipment. To this day, no one knows what happened to the crew aboard the ship. But of course, we got some theories. Theory 1 is that a mutiny occurred. Theory 2 is that they were ransacked by pirates. Theory 3 is that they were taking part in rum running. People stole the ship to use for the rum running. And when they were done, they just abandoned the ship and left it there. But like I said before, we don't know for sure. In our 7th spot, we have the electronic fog. Okay, this one is pretty weird, not gonna lie. So on December 4th, 1970, a man named Rob McGregor was flying over the Bermuda Triangle when he was met by this weird tunnel-shaped vortex. He entered it, and apparently his wings sounded like they were scraping along metal. All of the electronic and magnetic navigational instruments malfunctioned. When he looked up, all he saw was a dull gray fog. Also, there were strange clouds forming behind the airplane. They were only in the clouds for a couple of minutes, but claimed that they traveled for 40 minutes. When they got out of the fog, they were over Miami Beach, a flight that would have taken 75 minutes. He believes that this weird fog is what has caused other planes and boats and passengers to disappear in the Bermuda Triangle. So what is this weird electronic fog that he encountered while over the ocean? That's something I want to know.
In our number 6 spot today, we have the Milky Sea phenomenon. This phenomenon is certainly much more beautiful than the name would suggest, and while we kind of know what causes it, there are still many unanswered questions that surround it. The first recorded sighting of this phenomenon occurred in 1846 when Raphael Semmes, who was the captain of the CSS Alabama, spotted it and was horrified by what he was seeing. He wrote, "From the deep blue water into a patch of water so light it startled me. The whole face of nature seemed changed, and with a little stretch of the imagination, the Alabama might have been conceived to be a phantom ship lighted up by the sickly and unearthly glare of a phantom sea." This phenomenon is so bright that it can be seen from the satellites orbiting Earth, and while it looks amazing in pictures, I can only imagine how frightening it would be to see in person when little is known about why it happens. It is believed that the glow is caused by bioluminescent bacteria that grows in all oceans in our world, but in order to produce a glow like we've seen, this bacteria has to be multiplied by billions of trillions, and we don't know how or why this happens. Also, we don't know for sure if that is what is responsible for the glow, it's just our current best guess. Just for the sake of our expansive imaginations, let's say that it really is this bacteria causing the glow. Why does it come to the ocean surface? Why in such great numbers? Every time this happens, it's at unpredictable times, locations, and sizes, so basically it remains a strange but stunning ocean mystery. In our number 5 spot today, we have the SS Beichimo. The SS Beichimo was built in Sweden in 1914 and it belonged to the Hudson's Bay Company. This ship was used to trade provisions for pelts in Inuit settlements along the Northwest Territories of Canada. On October 1st, 1931, the ship was ending its trading run and was packed with fur when it became trapped in pack ice. The crew decided to briefly abandon the ship and they traveled over the ice to the nearest town for shelter. Because of the location and the time, it wasn't exactly going to be simple for everyone to be rescued. On October 15th, the Hudson's Bay Company sent an aircraft to save 22 of the members, but 15 remained and began to prepare in case they needed to stay the winter. Because the ship couldn't be heated, the remaining crew members would return to the ship every few days to chip away some of the ice, but also to grab essential items from the ship. On November 24th, there was a powerful storm, and once it had cleared, the Beichimo was gone. The remaining crew assumed that it had sunk, but this is really where our mystery gets started. An Inuk hunter spotted the ship around 72 miles from the camp the remaining crew members had set up, and somehow they ended up locating it, removing the rest of the valuables, and then abandoning it for the last time because it was believed that this ship wouldn't last the rest of the winter. After the rest of the crew was finally rescued, the ship ended up being spotted around 480 miles from its previous sighting. For 40 years after, the Beichimo was frequently spotted floating in different locations, sometimes even providing people with shelter during storms, but was never once captured. In 2006, the Alaskan government began to work on a project to find the Beichimo, but since the most previous sighting, she has never been located again. While the ship is now presumed sunken, it would have been the longest sailing ghost ship of all time. Ships rarely survive for nearly as long while being unmanned, especially in the crushing icy waters. We still haven't found the wreck of this ship either, so perhaps it is still out there floating somewhere. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Devil's Sea. The Devil's Sea is like the Bermuda Triangle of the Pacific, as it lies in a region just south of Tokyo. This area is often thought as some sort of a paranormal area because of the consistent horrible happenings that occur in it. This area is one of the 12 vile vortices in the world, with the Bermuda Triangle being the most famous one. Above the Devil's Sea, planes are known to seemingly just drop out of the sky like something is reaching up and grabbing them. Methane deposits cause large explosions in the area, and during World War II, this area was the site of over 20 missing submarines. There have also been numerous ships, some twice the size of the Titanic, who have gone missing without a trace after sailing through the Devil's Sea. This is all to say that while we don't really know what lurks in this area, it's probably safest to just stay the heck away from it. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Cassie Nicole. The Cassie Nicole was a boat that set sail from Richmond Hill, Georgia on April 10th, 1990 with 4 people on board. During the second day aboard, one of the passengers realized that the boat was suddenly taking on water, and at this same time the pumps and radio were not working, which left them with little to no options. The crew decided it was time to board a life raft and abandon ship. After a day of floating on this life raft, one of the passengers named Nathan saw the ship's hatch cover floating by them and thought that it might be able to support him better. Once he hopped onto the cover, he ended up losing sight of the other 3 crew members. Later in the day, he saw a freighter go by multiple times, and he was hoping that it had picked up the 3 crew members he had lost contact with. After 3 days of floating at sea, Nathan was finally rescued, but he received the news that the other crew members hadn't been found. Months went by with no sign of the others until a few months later, when Nathan's sister, as well as the owner of the boat, began receiving strange phone calls from someone who was speaking in Spanish. The person on the other line said their name as well as the names of the missing people, and in the final phone call the stranger said, in English, "I'm bringing them home," but there has still never been a sign of them. The family of the disappeared men believe that they may be alive somewhere but are being held in a foreign country, but why? And why would someone say that they were bringing them home only to not do that? In our number 2 spot today, we have the loneliest whale. This whale has been nicknamed the loneliest whale in the world, but the truth is, we don't really know if that's true because we've never actually seen it. This whale, which we don't know if it's a male or a female, or what whale species it belongs to, sings its song like no other whale does. The whale was first heard in 1989 on a hydrophone, and while the calls were most similar to that of a blue whale, there was one striking difference, and that was the frequency of the calls. This whale calls at 52 Hz, with regular blue whales calling between 10 and 40 Hz. Even fin whales are usually heard at 20 Hz, so it's just left everyone stumped as to what could be going on here. A researcher named Bill Watkins dedicated his life to trying to reveal what exactly is going on here, and while he passed away in 2004, he found that this whale was not only unusual, but totally unique. The biggest challenge is the fact that we cannot locate this whale. Their calls can be heard for hundreds of miles, and trying to find one single whale in the vastness of the ocean is next to impossible. Many people have suggested that perhaps the whale is deaf, and this is what has led to its unique song, but of course without the whale, how could we possibly know for sure? In our number 1 spot today, we have the French sailors. Yves Emmanuel Payne and Laurent Hernas were French sailors who were hired to sail a boat to its new owners. Their trip would see them departing from Annapolis, Maryland and heading to Guadalupe, but when they never arrived at their destination, searches quickly began. Unlike many of the other stories similar to this one, there were actually sightings of this ship, most of them occurring along the intercoastal waterway, which was far off from the course the ship was intended to take. Along with these sightings came the frightening news that the witnesses claimed to see a third man on the boat, which made people begin to believe that it had been hijacked, which wouldn't have been all that surprising considering the state-of-the-art vessel they were on. Despite these sightings, the boat was never found and neither were the men. To add even more strange occurrences to this story, however, around 2 months after the disappearance, a police officer in South Carolina pulled over a speeding car. After a sort of strange encounter with those in the vehicle, it was later discovered that 2 of the 3 men in the car were the missing Yves Emmanuel and Laurent, but at this point they of course had already been released. What exactly happened here has never been fully discovered, despite this all happening in 1991. In our number 10 spot today we have the upsweep. We all know how little we know about the ocean, and that includes what kinds of creatures lie in it. So while this mysterious sound out of context probably wouldn't be that freaky, when put into this situation it becomes quite a bit more eerie. This sound is referred to as upsweep, and it was caught when the Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory started its sound surveillance system in August of 1991. The sound is apparently more seasonal, with its peaks in spring and fall, but it is unclear if the changing of seasons is responsible for this sound, or if it's coming from something that lurks in the ocean and remains undiscovered. Just for reference, here is a clip of that sound played at 20 times the original speed. It is possible that this sound could be coming from underwater volcanic activity, but considering the fact that this has yet to be proven, I am here to ask the question, what if it's not? In our number 9 spot today we have Bermeja. Bermeja was an island that could be found on many maps spanning from the 16th to the 20th century, but in a 1997 survey, the island could not be located. In an extensive 2009 study, it was concluded that the island that was once labeled as Bermeja just didn't exist, which left a whole host of questions. The island was supposed to be located just off of the north coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, which is particularly important because if it did exist, its location would be integral to determining the boundaries for exploitation rights of oil in the Gulf of Mexico. So of course, when this island that's been included on many maps seemingly just doesn't exist anymore, people really began to speculate what could have happened. There are a few major theories with this one. The first is that the original observation of the island was incorrect, and then no one ever went to double check that this island existed. The next being that possible shifts in the geography of the ocean floor, along with rising sea levels, were the cause for this island to completely disappear. The third theory is the most mysterious out of them all, and this is the theory that the island was blown up by the CIA so as to expand the economic zone belonging to the United States. It certainly is not an easy thing for an island to just disappear, so it truly is quite a large mystery about what exactly happened here, and at this point, it is unclear if we'll ever know for sure. In our number 8 spot today we have the Sarah Joe. The Sarah Joe was a fishing boat that departed from Maui in February of 1979. There were 5 crew members aboard the boat, and when they left around 10 AM that day, the skies were perfectly clear, but while they were out at sea, the wind began to change and they ended up encountering a horrible storm. People on shore who were rightfully worried about the crew headed to the shoreline to try and wave the boat back in, but they were unable to locate the boat at all. One of the passengers' fathers even went out on a separate boat in the middle of the storm to try and see if anything could be done, or if he could at least locate the ship, but to no avail. It was presumed that all of the crew members had been lost due to the severity of the storm. The following days of course consisted of many hours of searching, but neither the ship or any of the men were located. Flash forward almost an entire decade to September of 1988, and a member of the initial search team, John Naughton, was on a wildlife expedition on a deserted atoll around 2,000 miles from Maui when he discovered a small boat and a makeshift grave. He left the site as untouched as he could and immediately contacted authorities, who were then able to confirm that the boat was the Sarah Joe, and the person buried in the makeshift grave was one of the passengers who went missing all those years ago. While experts do agree that the boat could have drifted here and it would have only taken about 3 months to do so, this area was surveyed in 1985 and there was no trace of either the boat or the makeshift grave. So where would the boat and this crew member have been from the 1979 disappearance until after the 1985 survey? These are the types of questions that still remain unanswered to this day. There are of course theories, but none that cover all the mysteries this story holds. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Yonaguni Monument. Just off of the coast of Yonaguni in Japan, there is a diving location that has a high population of hammerhead sharks, making it a large and popular attraction. In 1986, a diver in the area noticed some formation on the seabed that resembled a structure of some sort. This led to a team of scientists going on a dive to gather more information, and this is when the Yonaguni Monument was officially discovered. The monument is made of sandstone and mudstones, but here's the mysterious thing. Scientists can't agree on its origins. There are some who believe that this is a natural formation, but there are some who swear that it is man-made. The stairs are over 165 feet long and 65 feet wide, which obviously means that they are strikingly huge. There are pretty reasonable arguments for both sides, and considering the fact that this thing is at least 10,000 years old, I guess it's fair that we may not have all the answers, but it certainly is strange that we can't quite figure it out. At the end of the day, I really don't want to meet whatever thing would need stairs this large.
In our number 5 spot, we have the frilled shark. The frilled shark can live to depths of up to 5,000 feet, which means they were most likely not spotted by a casual diver. This eel-like shark has 6 pairs of gills that are across its throat. It usually swallows its prey whole, but its 300 teeth would also guarantee that its prey would most likely not escape anyway. This fish is referred to as a living fossil as it looks so similar to its ancient ancestors. Honestly, this fish looks old and worn, and a little bit like a snake. Honestly, it looks like it could be the demon of the sea. In some pics of this shark, it looks truly terrifying, and everyone, including divers, would be scared if they were ever to stumble across this fish. In our number 4 spot, we have the giant squid. The giant squid is indeed giant. It is 40 feet long, that's about 12 meters. Yeah, this definitely scared the breath out of some divers somewhere upon its discovery. It is one of the largest animals without backbones in the world. They live at depths of 1,000 to 2,000 feet, which definitely has made them hard to study. Apparently, they also have the largest eye in the animal kingdom, as their eyes are about 10 inches in diameter. They are carnivores, so they usually eat deep sea fish, young sharks, smaller squids, and humans. Just joking, but honestly, I'm sure if they had the opportunity to eat you, I bet you they would. In our number 3 spot, we have the gulper eel. Okay guys, let's be real, a diver wouldn't be able to see most deep sea fish because, well, we can't necessarily dive into the deep sea yet, lol. However, I'm sure divers have seen them via pictures and after being captured in deep sea fishing nets, so there's that. The gulper eel is one of them that was most likely seen because of a deep sea fishing net. This fish has one large mouth, and its mouth is bigger than its whole body, which makes it a tad scary to look at. It usually feeds on small crustaceans, so there's really nothing to fear. It wouldn't eat you. It has a long pink fluorescent tail that helps attract prey with its light. I personally think it is quite chilling to look at and would love to know if you agree in the comments section below. In our number 2 spot, we have the hatchet fish. So many scary fish. I'm gonna have to put on something funny after this, like The Big Bang Theory, my newest obsession. I know I'm late to the game, whatever, your girl is a late bloomer. The deep sea hatchet fish basically looks like an alien with its big bulging eye. Oh, and you know, it glows in the dark. Yeah, glows. Pretty cool. Which honestly makes it maybe one of the coolest fish. Cool, but terrifying. It has a row of luminescent organs lining its belly. It apparently mimics daylight above, which throws off predators below it. They live at depths up to 3,200 feet. They have a pretty large mouth that is tilted upward and opens wide to scoop up meals.
In our 6th spot today, we have the time travel. Legend goes that one day 3 ships were traveling through the Bermuda Triangle. Everything was going fine until they encountered a mysterious fog. When they emerged through the other end of the fog, there were only 2 ships. The other ship was way ahead of them. The crew aboard the ship claimed that the fog transported them back in time several years. There, they saw a bunch of different boats and passengers also sailing. Then they approached the same fog and they got transported back to the current day. Isn't that weird? Was this the same fog the pilot encountered? Like, what is going on in the ocean? We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the disappearance of Keith Davis. Now, this case is certainly going to keep you up at night, so just a little warning. So in 2015, Keith Davis, a fisheries observer, headed out to sea with his crew. His job was to monitor all the catches and collect data on it. But about a month later, Keith disappeared off the ship in the middle of the day in broad daylight. He has never been found. On top of that, the weather that day was calm, and he was an experienced observer, so it's not like he just fell overboard by accident. So what happened to him? Well, theory goes that he knew too much, so someone got rid of him. When police searched his email, they found photographic evidence of illegal things happening on board these ships, like they were allegedly smuggling people. He was also keeping track of a number of rule violations. Not only that, a year before his disappearance, Keith sent a mysterious email to his friends. In the email was a video of 4 men being shot to death while holding onto debris in the ocean. So theory goes that Keith was killed for knowing way too much. But still, to this day, we don't know exactly what happened to him. Coming in at number 4, we have the Ellen Austin. In 1880, a ship named the Ellen Austin set sail to New York from Liverpool. During their travels, the crew spotted a ship floating near the Bermuda Triangle. They approached it and found that nothing was wrong with the ship, but all the crew on board were missing. So they decided to put some of their own crew members on board this mysterious ship and have it come with them. But during the trip, the 2 ships got separated. They were separated for a couple of days before the Ellen Austin spotted the ship once again. However, all their crew on board vanished. There was no trace of them. Now, the story goes on saying that they placed another set of crew members aboard the ship, and once again, the exact same thing happened to those men. They disappeared off the ship without a trace. But that account hasn't been confirmed. Either way, this mystery gave birth to an urban legend. Basically, a cursed ghost ship lurks the waters near the Bermuda Triangle. Those who hop on board will mysteriously disappear without a trace. In our 3rd spot, we have the disappearing aircrafts. In 1945, 5 torpedo bomber planes took off for a 3-hour exercise. But while flying over the Atlantic Ocean, they disappeared without a trace. It all started when the flight's leader noticed that his compass wasn't working properly. So he was worried that they were flying in the wrong direction. He instructed the planes to then change paths, thinking that they were going to then be heading towards Florida. But in reality, they were just traveling deeper into the Atlantic. As the planes started getting close to the Bermuda Triangle, their signals began to fail. The last few things the pilots ever said were, and I quote, "Everything looks strange, even the ocean. And it looks like we are entering white water. We're completely lost." Then the communication was cut completely and they were never heard from again. In our 2nd spot, we have the severed feet. What would you do if you were out on a nice stroll on the beach when you came across someone's missing arm or foot? Believe it or not, this has happened a number of times. Since 2007, severed human feet have been washing up on the shore of the Pacific Northwest. The first was a right foot still inside of a size 12 Adidas shoe. The second was again a right foot, size 12, but it was in a Reebok shoe. Since then, 15 more feet have washed up on shore. To this day, we don't know who they belong to or what happened to them, or even if they were victims of the same killer. It's really freaking creepy if you ask me. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Witchcraft. This is the name of a boat that set sail on December 22nd, 1967. On board was the captain, Dan Burrack, and his friend, Patrick Horgan. The 2 headed off to get a good look at Miami's Christmas lights. However, after traveling just 1 mile out, they contacted the Coast Guard, saying that the boat had hit something. But there was no damage. Dan seemed to be calm on the call to the Coast Guard and said they just needed a tow to the shore. So they figured that the boat's propeller was just damaged or something like that. The Coast Guard immediately went out, but when he arrived at the spot the boat was said to be, no one was there. It took him only 19 minutes to get there, yet the boat was already gone. Here's where it gets super weird. This boat was virtually unsinkable. Not only did they have life jackets and lifeboats on board, but the boat had a special flotation device installed in it. This made it basically unsinkable. So even if the boat started filling with water, part of it would still be sticking out of the water, so the Coast Guard would be able to see it. And also, they had flare guns on board with them, so if something serious started to happen, they could have set those off. They didn't.
Number 5, mystery boom. Boom, boom, boom? Question mark? This one here was pretty recent. Early 2021 in San Diego, residents reacted to what sounded like a sonic boom. Windows were moving, doors were rattling. A lot of San Diego heard and actually felt this thing. But what was it? Many don't know. Nobody knows. At this point, many believe it was an earthquake. You know, being in San Diego and all, that wouldn't exactly be shocking. But this hits the point home even further. These residents here are used to earthquakes. This was entirely new. This was something they've never felt before, and obviously it was concerning. No earthquakes were reported at the time, and the Marines didn't speak up about anything. And if it was a sonic boom from a plane, well, they would have to tell you. And also, they're not allowed to do it that close to the coast. You can't sonic boom a family of 4 trying to have a beach day because you want to do some tests. That's not gonna happen. So what was it? Our best guess is that this boom came from, you guessed it, the ocean, which is way more concerning than a thunderstorm or a jet. What's down there? What's rattling? Earthquakes? Kraken? I think it's the Kraken. Number 4, the whistle. Who would have thought that a whistle would be terrifying? Me. Anything in the ocean's terrifying. That's why I thought so. Picked up by hydrophones, of course, as most of these insane things are commonly found in the depths of the deepest, darkest seas, was a whistle. Yeah, we actually don't know where this one even came from. See others on this list, we have some ideas. Certain radar points that we can look around in, maybe pinpoint some sort of idea, like that weird duck thing that was below. We had an idea. The whistle, though, well, that's a total mystery as far as location goes. Back in 1997, this was picked up and it came from, again, somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. Isn't that comforting? Just somewhere out there, anywhere. And this noise is a little similar to volcanic noises recorded in the Mariana Volcanic Arc, so that's our best guess, but still, no idea. This whistle got the attention of every single hydrophone, which is pretty impressive. There has to be one loud whistle. Can you whistle? It's always so impressive to me when someone can whistle. I can't hail a cab in New York at all. I'm like, it's gone. I missed it. Number 3, Julia. Another normal name, another creepy underwater backstory. Here we go. Julia. Let's talk about her. What did she do? Who is she? Back in March 1999, this noise here was recorded, again, by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA for short. Now this time, the noise was heard across the entire Pacific Ocean and the entire hydrophone array. So across all that distance, this sound was carried, another loud one. So whatever made this noise has to have some pretty powerful horsepower behind it. Now this noise is pretty long, again, and we can't include the entire clip, but some people out here really think that this is the Kraken or some sort of elder god, like Cthulhu or something. The point of origin is determined to be somewhere around Bransfield Straits and Cape Adair, which sounds both like locations from the Elden Ring, so I don't know what's going on over there at Cape Adair, but it's pretty frightening. This Cape Adair gets a lot of action, and we think it's because of icebergs, but again, there's no hard evidence here. Everything's slipping and sliding around. But what do you guys think? Is the Kraken's real name Julia? I vote yes. Number 2, 52 Hertz whale. I love whales. They're the closest thing to a dinosaur, in my opinion. They're underwater. They're like the nicest thing about an ocean. They're so soft and slow and beautiful. Also terrifying, but beautiful. Complex creatures. Complex creatures that we should leave alone, especially the 52 Hertz whale. Definitely that one. What's going on? There's a documentary about this whale, specifically about their sound. Joshua Zeman made a documentary about, I'm not gonna lie, the loneliest whale on the planet. Sounds pretty depressing, and believe me, it is, but it's equally as interesting. See, for decades now, we've heard this sound, and now this film, called The Loneliest Whale, The Search for 52, has people crying, but now we have some answers. How do we find the loneliest whale? And also, why is he so lonely? What did he do? What happened? We all deserve love. Back in 1989, the US Navy first detected the sound that measured in at more than twice frequency of a normal, healthy whale call, so it got their attention, right? What is this? Originally, what got them intrigued was the fact that this could have been a military mechanical sound, of course. Then they thought, well, maybe it's an animal, because it's moving around a bit. Perhaps it's a hybrid dinosaur. We've never heard this sound. No, it's just a lonely, sad whale. But why is its frequency scaring away so many possible friends and mates? Well, we don't know. Again, maybe it can't whistle. Like me, that's why. And finally, number 1, crop circles. We'll finish off with a cute one, I guess, why not, right? Although I'm arguing that this one is still pretty terrifying. Crop circles on the ocean floor. Aliens confirmed, my friends. They were first spotted back in 1995, right off the southern coast of Japan, and for 16 years, these things were blowing the minds of divers. And I absolutely can see this. Like, nobody knew where these signals were coming from. There would be one a week, just these weird symbols, these alien symbols, hieroglyphics underwater, then the next week, they would be gone. Tiny aliens or cute tiny pufferfish? That's right, the latter. In 2011, one of these dudes got caught in 4K, and it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. These male pufferfish pufferfish, they try and lure in all these ladies by making art on the ocean floor. You know, some birds dance like crazy, while some fish make art. Yeah, those are animals that we live with. Deal with it, I guess. The thing that baffles me here, concerns me really, if anything, is that the pufferfish uses a shell. Like, he uses a tool to carve away his emotions. That's crazy. I didn't know fish could do this. I'm really blown away here. I'm not sure what this symbol means here, but it's signaling something. It's signaling maybe love? I don't know. We could all use some of that, no?
Number 10. Immortal jellyfish. The immortal jellyfish is a species of small, biologically immortal jellyfish found worldwide in tropical waters. Given the nickname immortal jellyfish for its ability to revert back to a polyp stage while it's starving or in danger and basically escaping death, researchers believe this jellyfish may hold the cure to cancer. Under normal conditions, its life cycle is divided into 4 parts. The union of the male and female gametes produces a larva or planula. It then attaches to the seabed as a polyp, similar to an anemone. The polyps then release ephora, or a young jellyfish, into the phase prior to sexual maturity. They become jellyfish, reproduce sexually, and start over. But if they are stressed by an environmental threat, the jellyfish revert. After reproducing, they return to the previous phases, becoming polyps in the ocean floor again. As far as scientists know, jellyfish can repeat the process indefinitely. Thus, they are said to be biologically immortal. They can be eaten by a predator or fall into the hands of a swimmer, but they do not die of old age, which is pretty cool. Number 9. River at the bottom of the Black Sea. The Black Sea is one of the most isolated from the world's oceans, and there is a river flowing along the bottom of it. Now, it's just not a normal river. Oh no, it's complete with trees, leaves, and even waterfalls. One major difference is that the underwater river, when rounding a bend, moves in currents spinning the opposite direction from those on land. It has been an intriguing aspect of the ocean since it was found. According to scientists, if the river was on land, it would be the 6th largest river in the world in terms of the volume of water flowing through it. The discovery of the river, announced on August 1st, 2010, was made by scientists at the University of Leeds, and it is the first of its kind in the world. Number 8. The Mariana Trench. In the western Pacific Ocean, you will find the deepest part of the sea. The Mariana Trench is deeper than the height of Mount Everest, 43 miles wide, and a massive 1,580 miles long, which is 5 times longer than the Grand Canyon. A certified U.S. national monument, only small areas of the Mariana Trench have been explored. James Cameron reached the bottom in a submersible vessel Deep Sea Challenger in 2012, with the last successful attempt to search the ocean floor coming in 2020, when the Chinese submersible Fenduji made it all the way down. Several new species of underwater creatures have been discovered in the Mariana Trench, with most living on the surface of the ocean floor, including a type of sea cucumber. Explorers will find themselves in total darkness as they continue to understand what else lies in the deepest parts of the ocean and how marine life manages to survive. Number 7. Los Mahabalipuram Pagodas. The Los Pagodas was long considered a myth by many because of the lack of scientific evidence of its existence. But in 2004, when the infamous Indian Ocean tsunami hit, for a brief moment when the waters parted, large rock-like structures emerged from the water and were witnessed by many onlookers. The Los Mahabalipuram Pagodas in India, making it an incredible discovery. The remains of an ancient city were found in 2001 off the coast of India. Scientists retrieved many different items from the large city, including artwork, hand tools, fossilized bones, and pottery shards. What makes the discovery incredible is that the city is thought to be around 9,000 years old, which predates to the earliest Indian civilizations that sprung up 4,000 years ago. There is still not a lot known about this ancient city, as scientists and archaeologists continue to search the area for more clues and debate how old the city really is and who once inhabited it. But wow. Number 6. The 2,400-year-old boat in the Black Sea. Archaeologists working with engineers from the Black Sea Maritime Archaeology Project, aka MAP, have discovered a 23-meter shipwreck that has laid undisturbed for more than 2,400 years. The find is believed to be the oldest intact shipwreck ever discovered. Thanks to the lack of oxygen in the Black Sea and the fact it was discovered a mile below the surface means it is exceptionally well preserved.
The 75-foot vessel is thought to be ancient Greek. It still has its mast, rudders, and rowing benches. Speaking to The Guardian, Professor John Adams, the principal investigator with MAP, explained, "A ship surviving intact from the classical world, lying in over 2 kilometers of water, is something I would have never believed possible, and that it will change our understanding of shipbuilding and seafaring in the ancient world." The ship is thought to be a trading vessel. However, up to now, the design has only been seen on the size of ancient Greek pottery. The find is an archaeological first. The team have left the vessel untouched, apart from a small sample that was used to carbon date it by the University of Southampton. Number 5. $150 million of lost silver. At the bottom of the Atlantic for more than a century, a 150-year-old steamship had been found in 2003. The ship is the Republic, which sailed from New York in 1865, just after the Civil War, carrying 59 passengers and crew and mixed cargo meant to help New Orleans recover from the war. About 100 miles off Georgia, battling a hurricane, it sank in waters a third of a mile deep. Its cargo of lost coins, experts say, may now be up to worth $150 million. That would make it one of history's richest treasure wrecks. "It's a dream come true," said Dr. Donald H. Kagan, an expert on 19th century coins who is advising the company that discovered the wreck. There are piles of coins. The company Odyssey Marine Exploration of Tampa, Florida, who announced the find, said it hoped to retrieve all the coins. The company has retrieved more than 1,600 gold and silver coins, and none are dated later than 1865, tending to confirm the wreck's identity, said George Stem, the company's director of operations. "For some reason, even the silver coins are in great condition. Part of it is surely the physical environment down there," he said. "The icy deep explorers are still finding can often preserve objects, even precious metals like silver, that normally corrode easily. It's like finding a real treasure, and I would definitely like to receive some of those special coins." Number 4. Giant squid. The Kraken is a legendary sea monster of enormous size that is said to appear off the coast of Norway. Now, this is a mythical creature, but there is some truth to it. A giant squid was found on shore in Denmark in 1853. The giant squid is as elusive as the legend it inspired. It lives so deep underwater that we have limited information about it. However, we know it has the largest eyes of all living creatures, grows up to 18 meters, and is frequently hunted by sperm whales for food. The weaker giant squid generally flees when confronted by a whale. However, it sometimes fights back when cornered, and it's not unusual to find sperm whales with scars left from their battles with giant squids. It wasn't until the turn of the century in 2001 that humans saw the giant squid for the first time, and only a few years after that when it was finally photographed, making it one of the most elusive on the planet. The giant squid has long been known to exist, but capturing it on film has taken scientists extensive time and voyages to the deepest parts of the ocean where life is difficult to sustain. Number 3. Elongated skulls. Saquayum is a cenote located in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. It is a place that locals feared, and in 2012 a team of divers discovered the reason behind its fearsome reputation. An underwater survey discovered 2 chambers of the cenote littered with human bones, including deformed skulls. Archaeologists spent 2 weeks exploring the 2 chambers. The skulls belong to different sexes and ages, so they aren't thought to be sacrifices, which begs the question, why are they buried deep underwater? Archaeologist Bradley Russell, who made the discovery, believes the dead may have been buried as some form of ritual, or that they could be the victims of a plague that swept through the area. You wouldn't want them near the rest of the population, and you wouldn't want to drink the water either, Russell explained. Regardless, that's creepy. And why are the skulls elongated? Are they another species of human? I have so many questions. Number 2. Baltic Sea Anomaly. In 2011, a sonar image was taken by Peter Lindberg, Dennis Erberg, and their Swedish Ocean X diving team while searching for treasures on the ocean floor in the Baltic Sea. What the picture showed was a seemingly non-natural 200-foot circular object with passageways and stairs. The discovery looked like something out of a Star Wars film, and many people believed it was a spaceship that sank to the bottom of the ocean. Samples taken from the area in 2012 were given to Swedish scientists who said that there was nothing extraterrestrial about the area, but I'm not too sure about that. What Ocean X and the crew had found was weird, and many still think there is a UFO lying at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, and there's another expedition to the area planned soon. And coming in at number 1 is giant underwater pyramids. Off the coast of Portugal in the Atlantic Ocean is an anomaly that experts have been unable to fully understand or explain. Picked up by oceanic GPS technology, measurements of a structure were found, leading researchers to believe that two giant pyramids of ancient times sit underwater thousands of feet below the surface. The GPS data received back has the structures with a base of 8,000 square feet and about 150 feet tall, making these pyramids pretty giant in size. But there's very little explanation into their existence, leaving it entirely up to speculation. Why would they be there? Is it another hidden city? Who knows? The pyramid has been underwater for about 20,000 years. Considering this is around the time of the last ice age, where glaciation was melting from its peak 2,000 years prior, whatever civilization, human or not, that was around before the ice age could be responsible for building the pyramid. While the Portuguese Navy still hasn't determined the origins, many might question why this hasn't been first reported sooner than late 2012. To further support the idea that this pyramid could have been built by different civilizations, archaeologists from the Portuguese Association of Archaeological Research have recently discovered evidence on Pico Island that suggests their belief that humans existed in the Azores region before the arrival of the Portuguese thousands of years ago.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Selkies. Yeah, we'll kick this part 2 off with some Scottish mythology. How fun is that? Selkies were a load of fun. You would remember these ones if you saw them in person, definitely. Selkies were described as a sea lion almost in appearance, only there's a noticeable feature here that sets them apart. See, they can shed their skin and then take on the form of a human being. Nice, how lovely, we love it. Haggis and Selkies, all aboard. Let's go to Scotland, that's always fun. Their origins go back to the shores of Orkney and Shetland. So Scottish, those names, I love it. Yeah, I live in Shetland. The weather's shite, and over in Shetland. It's shite in Shetland. One tale is pretty haunting. I'm for sure counting this as a curse because, well, how else would you describe this scenario? When a female Selkie shed her skin once upon a time, a sailor captured her. He didn't know what he was in for at first because after he caught her, they, thinking it was a fish, sea lion creature, they were then forced into marriage. Legally, I guess, by the sea? I don't know how curses work. If the Selkie were to ever find her skin, her original sea lion fish form skin, at that point her husband would pass away instantly, and then she would be free to go back into the sea. Yeah, it's like Finding Nemo 3, maybe. That sounds like a decent plot. The ultimate right swipe. What a curse. He's like, I think I got a, oh no, it's a wife. If you're ever fishing or sailing the high seas near Scotland, anything that resembles a sea lion, just don't go near it. Don't marry it, okay? Don't go near her at all. She'll take your house and your car and your kids. You don't want any part of that smoke. She'll take everything. Number 9, Roman sea curse. The 1st century, a good place to begin with most things that are horrible. Let's talk about the Romans. The Romans did things a little different back in time. We can't figure out how they engineered aqueducts yet, or how that many people watched Colosseum battles. I can't watch an armbar on YouTube, let alone bring my family to the Colosseum. No idea how that happened, but they did it. Ancient Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder, he once wrote a book on natural history, and in this book, this go-to on ancient history that we still study and refer to in school, the Elder wrote about a half-human, half-fish creature that he called Nereids. Okay, he even added to this first observation detailing that the human parts of the body were covered in rough scales. Human in appearance, but still fishy nonetheless. The Elder also recalls a seaman who would climb ships at night and sink them. Yeah, like Aquaman, only he doesn't help people. He just sinks your ship. And then you die in the sea. This is awful. Is he a curse? Is he a villain? Is this man like a super villain? I don't even know what to categorize this as. Curse, definitely a curse. Never going to the sea again. Number 8, Kalua Papa. Heading over to the beautiful Hawaii for this one. Always wanted to go. Unfortunately, now I'll never go. Haunted villages are not my thing, but if it's yours, you're in for a treat. Let's talk about it. This was once referred to as the most cursed place on Earth. Not bad, good in a resume. The coast of Molokai sounds like a good time, and from Google Earth, it looks like a paradise, really. But for over 100 years, this was an isolation coast for patients with leprosy. Yeah, long before a cure or any idea of scientific knowledge was even a thing. That, of course, had to change sometime. The laws did in 1969. Right now, barely anybody is living on that part of the island due to its haunted past. Leprosy was considered a curse back then, literally. I'm not even making that up. That's all they thought it was. But even when help became available, some elderly patients stayed on the island. So a few thousand people were stuck on this island for almost 10 years. And some of them were like, I'm not even moving anymore. No, that's it. I mean, to be fair, yeah, you get forced to stay on an island. They're like, okay, you're good to go, you're free. It's like, no, we're 97 now. We're done. Thanks. Enjoy the medicine. We're done. Number 7, Nauru. It's safe to say the last few years have been a little rocky. Our plans had to shift a little bit, to say the least. Nauru, however, is a tiny island located in the southwestern Pacific. And they didn't didn't have to shut anything down during this pandemic. If anything, their lives have just stayed the same. It's the world's smallest island nation. It was originally called Pleasant Island back in 1798 when Westerner John Fern first discovered it. It started out pleasant, I guess like most islands do, and then when humans get up close and start leaving garbage around, it all goes to The island's natural resource was phosphate, but overmining made the tiny island pretty much useless now, so now they consider it cursed because of its bad history. I'm like, no, I think that's just humans getting a little greedy, but we'll call it cursed, because it's an island and it's nice. Number 6, Kai Islands. Back in 1943, Japanese soldiers were posted up on the Kai Islands in Indonesia. They claimed to have run into a singular mermaid numerous times. She would just flip around and say what's up, hey. It's like my octopus teacher, only with a haunting mermaid instead. On the Kai Islands, multiple encounters with multiple mermaids are normal. The villagers referred to these creatures as orang iken. Orang translates to human, and iken to fish. Human, fish. Mermaids. While on patrol, Sergeant Taro Horiba had instructed the village chief to pass on any information if anyone sees any of these things. Of course, once I hear about this, I'd be like, yeah, can someone tell me if you see this? I would love to have a glimpse. Somebody saw one, and then they ended up capturing it, and then Sergeant Horiba recalls the mermaid as being around 5 feet tall, and their skin was pinkish, its face was human, but it had spikes around their head, and its mouth was that of a fish's mouth. So pretty haunting and pretty hard to forget, I would say. This was 1943, so not that long ago, but again, the scientific community wasn't exactly sold yet. Nothing ever came from this, obviously, or else we'd hear from it. But weirdly, I believe this encounter. It's like when it comes to curses and areas, some are kind of fishy, pun intended. This one's believable. I don't know. A carp mouth is more believable than silvery blonde hair and flirting with you as you pass by. You know what I mean? If it's described as something haunting, I'll believe it. Number 5, the Bermuda Triangle. Ah, the old classic. How cursed is this historical triangle? Do disappearances still happen today? Well, yes, definitely, absolutely. Are there the same amount of disappearances all over and not just that specific triangle in any way, shape, or form? Also yes. The Bermuda Triangle, given the amount of volume it sees every year, does not see more shipwrecks per se, but back in the early 19th century, there was a few disappearances that I could see definitely being cursed. I could see why we'd avoid that one specific Illuminati-shaped area of the ocean. The USS Cyclops, for example, this was a historic one. So far, the leading theory on this ship's fate is a rogue wave, kind of like an interstellar, just a random, massive wave that just ruins everybody's day. But it's never been found, so we still have no idea to this day. The USS Cyclops went missing back in March 1918 in the Triangle of Doom. Sadly, there were no survivors. The wreck is still MIA. With many of these ships not even making a distress call, the tales are bound to follow. The cursed idea is bound to, set in place. When it comes to sea curses, we're only just scratching the surface with the USS Cyclops. Later on in 1945, there was another incident. This one as well, pretty noteworthy, all things considered. 5 torpedo planes went missing carrying 14 men. That was bad already, but the search plane that went looking for them also went missing in the same area. So cursed? Yeah, I don't know what else to call that. It's a pretty specific area nonetheless. Number 4, the Kraken. For ages now, sailors from Norway and Greenland have shared tales of a giant sea monster. Very specific one that they call the Kraken. It's got tentacles big enough to pull you out of your boat. So yeah, you'll remember it. You're gonna want to talk about this. In 1857, Danish naturalist Japetus Steenstrup found a large squid beak. And soon after, this man was sent parts of another specimen from the Bahamas. So everyone was on board. They were trying to figure this out as a community. So he concluded with all this evidence that the Kraken is very real and is part of a species of giant squid called Arthitusius dux, which translates to ruling squid in Latin. Sounds very evil. Very little is known about giant squid in general. They're so hard to track, but when we did get a photo of one in 2005 and then a video of another in 2013, it's fitting the picture. Things are starting to connect. I don't know, some dots are connecting. Legend has it this thing is very real. Eyewitness reports from sailors describe a 60-foot long, tall, wide, huge giant squid. Again, could have been one of these newly discovered giant squid, but who's really to tell? The sea is massive, and I'm open to this. I'm open to monsters and curses for sure. Number 3, sirens, aka more mermaids. Here we go. The mythology surrounding sirens is interesting, but I don't really think we have any Atlanteans flirting with sailors. I don't think that's a real thing. But Christopher Columbus might disagree. On his first trip overseas in 1493, Christopher Columbus claims to have seen not 1, but 3 sirens. They followed him. He even wrote about it. He said they rose well out of the sea, but they are not so beautiful as they are said to be. Dr. Seuss guy. guy? Is he rhyming now all of a sudden? Who does he think he is? For their faces had some masculine traits. I think I would be a very cute mermaid. Thank you very much, Chris. I mean, I don't know what that means. Okay. So what did he see? I mean, when it comes to correctly identifying places or people, obviously Chris can get confused. Yeah, he's not really the go-to guy. So historians believe Columbus may have seen a few manatees, which is even funnier now. He's like, yeah, mermaids aren't that attractive. Chris, those are manatees. Those aren't humans. He's like, oh, damn. It's like, you thought they were a little attractive, Chris? Their skin is pink and fleshy, so that's a fair mix-up, I guess. Not really cursed at all, but I'm like, yeah, it's the things that happen around all that is quite cursed. Number 2, the Baltic Sea anomaly. This one, pretty cursed aliens, I don't know, somewhere in the middle, here we go. Back in 2011, divers accidentally discovered this 60-meter wide, 300-meter long entity. We'll say that. Or a rock. It's a big shaped rock. They found it 90 meters down in the Baltic Sea, right in the Gulf of Botnia. It's round in shape, so naturally people think this thing is a UFO that was lost many moons ago. The diving team returned, obviously, but they couldn't get a clear shot of it because there was interruptions. There was some mysterious electrical interferences when they tried to get close. A little odd right there. Those aliens in there have ad blocker or something, I don't know what's going on. Samples of the rock were studied and the Ocean X team gave them to a professor at Stockholm University, and among the samples were granite and sandstone. So do you guys think this is a natural rock formation? Kind of seems like it is here, but what's up with the failing technology around it? Is something else going on? Some say it's the Millennium Falcon. I don't know, the force is strong with this one. Number 1, Atlantis. Of course we have to end on the lost city of Atlantis. What happened? Was the island cursed from the beginning? Is it a warning to the other islands near it? This map here is from 1664, and the creator of the map, Athanasius Kircher, who was a scholar who studied ancient Egypt and volcanoes, pretty historical resume, pretty accurate resume, all things considered. He also included an island that does not exist, or maybe once did and now it doesn't. He claimed the island was sourced from Egyptian maps, that he found a map in those archives and that's where he got it from. It wasn't like his idea or anything. This is starting to feel like national treasure a bit. I'm into this. The first story of Atlantis was written in 360 BC, and the description Plato gave was a lot different than how we would imagine a deep sea paradise city. He actually described it as an imperfect society. It was a cursed society, if anything, that had become corrupt by its own wealth. Atlantis is starting to sound a lot like Gotham City. I don't really think I want to go there anymore. Oh boy. Maybe that's why Batman and Aquaman, now I'm getting it. Researchers have come to a conclusion that if this island was not underwater and it was still somehow on the surface, well, they'd probably be quite aggressive. Nothing like Disney's Atlantis at all. It would just be like those uncontacted tribes.
Starting off this countdown, we had the HMS Sea Serpent. In August of 1848, the crew on the HMS Daedalus was sailing in the South Atlantic when they spotted this terrifying creature. According to the ship's captain and several members of the crew, they claimed that the monster was 60 feet in length, with 4 feet of its head raising out of the water. This massive sea beast lurked around the ship for 20 minutes before taking off. To this day, we don't know what it is that they saw. They described it as being a long snake with a dragon's head. Pretty weird and creepy, right? Well, they aren't the only ones who witnessed this too. It was spotted a second time by the American brig Daphne, and in fact, crew on board even shot at it. Scientists claim that maybe they just saw a whale. But come on, a bunch of experienced sailors would know the difference between a whale and something that's not a whale. And at number 9 today, we have the Mary Celeste. And if you guys are liking this video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. To this day, the mysterious case of the Mary Celeste is considered one of the creepiest cases in nautical history. Basically, in 1872, the Mary Celeste was found abandoned in the middle of choppy waters. The crew was nowhere to be found. All the cargo on board remained untouched. Now, the lifeboats were missing, which makes people believe that the crew tried to get off the ship and flee. But why would they just abandon their ship like that? Well, we got a number of theories. 1, a sea monster got them. 2, a pirate takeover occurred. 3, they were abducted by aliens, or 4, they consumed bad food and they all went mad. I know, it seems wild. To make matters weirder though, the crew and lifeboats were never found. No one knows what happened aboard that ship. In our 8th spot, we have the Baltic Sea anomaly. In 2011, a group of divers went out looking for treasure in the Baltic Sea, and they came across something weird. It was a 70-meter long weird object laying 300 feet below sea level. This thing has since been named the Baltic Sea Anomaly, and no one knows what the heck it is. It's just this massive steel-looking structure shaped like a disc with some weird patterns on it. Gets weirder when the divers claim their equipment randomly stopped working when they got closer to the object. there was a massive electrical interference there. So what is this thing? Honestly, we don't know. But some people think it's a glacial deposit left from thawing glaciers. Or it's part of a UFO spacecraft from one extreme to another. Could be either or, who knows. In our 7th spot, we have the 3 men. In 2007, 3 Australian men headed out on an expedition together. 3 days later, their ship was found drifting by itself in the middle of the ocean. The men were nowhere to be found. That's not all. On the ship, they found knives all over the cabin floor, as if there had been a fight and people were scrambling for weapons. What happened to these men still remains a mystery to this day. But of course, we got the theories. One is that they got into a devastating fight and they all ended up dying. Or 2, their propeller became snarled in a fishing line. One dude went to go free the line but then fell into the ocean. The second dude tried to save him and then fell in as well, and then so on with the third guy, or who even knows. Okay, we don't know for sure, that's just a theory. The only thing we do know is that this case is pretty creepy. Moving on to number 6, we have the Kraken. So it may just be that the Kraken is real, but it's not what we think it is. In fact, the legend of the Kraken was thought to have been born after a number of sailors spotted giant squids while sailing. So the Kraken might actually just be giant squids. In 1870, a giant squid washed up in New Zealand. Legend goes that it was as tall as the top of a ship's main mast, and it could easily take over a ship by wrapping its tentacles around the hull and crushing it. Is this true? Who knows? But no one believed that giant squids were real until around 2005. That's when scientists caught a photo of one. Then in 2013 they got a video of one. Now they believe there are millions of giant squids out there. The mystery here is, what beast did the sailors encounter in 1870? Was it a ginormous squid, or was it a kraken, or is a squid a kraken? Who even knows, okay? There's just so many questions out there that we need answers to. Starting off this countdown, we have the mysterious sunken ship. So the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration uses a remote operated vehicle called the Deep Discoverer in order to explore uncharted areas in the ocean and collect samples from them. Well, while diving in the Gulf of Mexico, they found an unknown shipwreck, which was then given the name number 15377. The Deep Discoverer was then able to take photos of the shipwreck and take samples from it. After doing so, they discovered that the shipwreck probably happened before the 1830s. It was a merchant ship built for distance, but that's all we know. The rest is history and a mystery. In our 9th spot today, we have the Atlit Yam ruins. This is a completely submerged ancient city that can be found 10 meters below sea level. It was first discovered in 1984 by a marine archaeologist, Juha Galili. Since then, a number of expeditions have took place in order to unearth the city and find out more about it. What's fascinating about this place is that right in the middle it has this massive 10-acre stone circle thing. We still don't know much about this structure. One theory though is that it was used for some kind of ritual, but we still don't know. Not only that, scientists don't know how the city sunk. Theory goes that the city was struck by a tsunami which caused a volcanic eruption, causing the city to flood and sink. But like I said, we still don't know for sure. This is one seriously mysterious place. Coming in at number 8, we have the underwater river. Okay, this one blows my mind. Not only does it look super cool, but like the whole concept is super cool. So it doesn't seem possible, but there are rivers underwater. Like straight up, a flowing river beneath all the ocean water. There's even trees growing alongside the shores. How on earth is this possible? Like, how can there be 2 different batches of water underwater? It just blows my mind, and it's been a huge mystery to scientists for years. Moving on to number 7, we have the mysterious purple orb. Located deep under the sea near the Channel Islands, marine scientists discovered a glowing purple orb. This is something that they have never seen before. They were left completely baffled. Theories range from some kind of egg to fungi to a type of sea slug to even a type of jellyfish or a tiny octopus. They just have no clue. And whatever it is, it hasn't been identified yet. But it is beautiful, that's for sure. Whatever it is. Moving on, at number 6, we have the world's oldest city. Back in 2001, the remains of an ancient city were found at the bottom of the ocean off the coast of India. In fact, it was found by complete accident. The divers ended up finding pieces of sculptures, human remains, artwork, and wooden furniture. A piece of wood from the furniture dates back to at least 9,000 plus years ago. Now, this was a huge breakthrough because it completely rewrites the history in that area. Now, the city is huge. It's basically the size of Manhattan. They have massive walls and plazas, and like I said, the structure dates back to 9,000 years ago, which is 5,000 years older than any city discovered by archaeologists anywhere, and they barely know anything about it. That's why it's hella mysterious. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Lost Road or Highway. The Bimini Road is a rock formation in the Bahamas composed of rectangular shaped limestone blocks. It was first discovered back in 1968 by a diver. In fact, when he reported his findings, he said it just looked like pavement. So then some archaeologists took a dive to see what it was all about. They deemed it man-made as the stones were purposefully lined in a linear formation. The road goes on straight for about half a mile before ending in a slight curve. So now, what's the big deal? Well, obviously, there's something more to this road. Some believe that it actually leads to the lost city of Atlantis. One thing that supported this theory is that back in the late 1930s, prophet Edgar Cayce said that the discovery of a road will lead to Atlantis. He said that it will be discovered in 1968 or 1969. So when this road was discovered in 1968, people were flipping out, being like, this is it, it leads to Atlantis. But we still haven't found Atlantis, so nice. In our 4th spot today, we have the volcanic underwater activity. Volcanic activity underwater seems impossible, but alas, it is not. Let's take a look at Loki's castle in the Arctic Ocean. The volcanic activity found here was discovered in 2008 by researchers from the University of Bergen in Norway. They found a field of 5 active hydrothermal vents between Norway and Greenland. It's quite fascinating, and research is still going on to better understand all this. Like I said, the world is just one big mystery, and count how many times I said mystery or mysterious in this video and let me know in the comments below. I feel like it's a lot. Moving on, at number 3, we have the 60,000 ton stone structure. Located in the Sea of Galilee lies a weird cone-shaped stone structure that weighs 60,000 tons. It was first discovered in 2003 by a team of researchers doing a sonar survey of the sea. When they found it, they sent divers down there to check it out. That's when they found a very odd and massive structure. It's said to be nearly 10 meters high and 70 meters wide. Now, there's a lot of theories about this structure. One is that it was made to mark a grave. 2, it was made on land, but then it got submerged after sea levels rose. Or 3, it was created as a fish nursery. But over the years, archaeologists and scientists have gone into fights over the structure's origins. The only thing they know for sure is that it was man-made and dates back to 12,000 years ago. In our 2nd spot, we have the locomotive graveyard. In 1985, during ocean mapping, scientists came across something quite eerie. They discovered 2 steam locomotives from the 1850s. They are sunk under 90 feet of water, and honestly, they look hella creepy. Now, there were no train tracks or stations around, so scientists were baffled. How did the trains get there, and why? Well, one theory is that they were being transported from Boston to the mid-Atlantic when they got hit by a storm, and either they fell off by accident or they were deliberately pushed off to save the ship, lessen the load. Again, this is just a theory. No one actually knows how they sunk. Plus, there's not even a record of these at all. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Lost Kingdom of Cleopatra, aka Thonis Heracleion. Located just northwest of Alexandria is the sunken city of Heracleion, and it's referred to as Egypt's Atlantis. It laid lost under the sea until the early 2000s. A group of divers were working off of the Egyptian coast when they found a large fragment of rock under the seabed, or so they thought. It was just rock. When they brought it out of the water, they found it to be a sculpture of the Egyptian god god of fertility, happy. After this discovery, they madly went to work exploring the area. They ended up discovering pieces of pottery, ancient coins, jewelry, busts, and ruins of temples. How the city ended up underwater is still a mystery. One theory is that it has to do with the rising sea levels and crumbling foundations of the city, causing it to slide into the Mediterranean Sea.
Coming up at our number 10 spot, we have the ghost shark. The ghost shark lives in the deep ocean and lives for about 30 years. It looks like a ghost, but arguably even scarier than one. It eats primarily crabs, shellfish, sea urchins, and octopus. Apparently these fish have been around even longer than dinosaurs. Their big eyes can appear dead in the water, but glow when they are exposed to light, giving them that ghostly look. In our number 9 spot, we have the Atlantic wolffish. The Atlantic wolffish kind of looks a bit like a blob with very sharp canine-like teeth. So sharp that it can crush the shells of sea urchins and crabs very easily, and that is what they eat. They can live at depths of 2,000 feet, and apparently they can produce an antifreeze that keeps their blood pumping in freezing water. This fish's overbite and general scary look definitely terrified us humans when we discovered it. In our number 8 spot, we have the red-lipped batfish. This fish is found near Peru at the depths of 10 to 249 feet. They eat small fish and small invertebrates including shrimp, crabs, worms, and mollusks. They aren't good swimmers, but they use their pectoral, pelvic, and anal fins to walk on the ocean floor. Like this. Anal fins. What? I'm 5. I wonder if whoever discovered this fish was more confused than scared to have found a fish that literally looks like it's wearing red lipstick. In our number 7 spot, we have the dragonfish. The deep sea dragonfish lives about 2,000 feet below the surface and is most certainly a ferocious predator. I mean, look at their teeth. They are clearly born to be fierce. They are quite long, coming up on 6.5 inches, and yes, they do have wing-like fins, which is definitely why they were called dragonfish. They are also called the sea moth, which, yeah, no, that makes them seem less cool because, you know, moths are a pain. So we're gonna stick with the dragonfish. Little is known about their history thus far, which is just another reminder that the ocean is huge and we have so much more to learn. In our number 6 spot, we have the Dumbo octopus. I can't think of the Dumbo octopus without thinking, aw, so cute, it's like Dumbo. It has protruding ears that are like fins, and that is why it was given the name. Its fins act like propellers and propel them upwards, like so. Personally, I don't think this creature is very scary, maybe because the cute name put it in a positive light, but if you are someone that feels uncomfortable looking at a cluster of dots, don't look at its legs. I am that person, and just looking at its suction cup identical legs made me a tiny bit queasy. Apparently there are about 15 different Dumbo octopus species, which is pretty cool, and also they live in the depths of at least 13,000 feet. They are the deepest living octopus known to man as of yet. They measure to about 8 to 12 inches and they can measure to about 6 feet high. They are quite hard to spot as they are known for their ability to camouflage. Pretty cool.
We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the cursed shipwreck. Back in the early 2000s, a natural gas company was laying pipeline in the ocean when they came across a shipwreck. Nowadays, this shipwreck is considered cursed or haunted. Let me explain why. So after the shipwreck was discovered, a team was sent down there to check it out. But everything that could go wrong did. First, the exploration sub malfunctioned right as it was getting ready to explore the wreck. Then the Navy sent a research sub down there and it literally self-destructed upon entering the water. Then over the course of a couple of years, other attempts have been made to explore the ship, but those have gone wrong as well. None have been successful. So now it's believed that this ship is cursed and doesn't want anyone entering it. In our 4th spot, we have the disappearing submarines. In 1968, 4 different submarines all mysteriously went missing. As a result, people believe that this can no way just be a coincidence. Something was out there sinking these subs. The subs were the USS Scorpion, the Soviet submarine K-129, a French submarine Minerve, and the INS Dakar. In fact, the French sub and the INS Dakar disappeared only 4 days apart. The French submarine has still never been found. What's weird is that it disappeared only an hour away from its port, so you think they'd be able to track it down, but nope. So what are the odds that 4 massive submarines go missing the exact same year? What could have caused this? We'll probably never know. In our third spot, we have Sylvester Butler Jr. Apparently, a number of people mysteriously vanish off of cruise ships each year. Most of them have never been found. Today, let's look at the weird case of Sylvester Butler Jr. In May of 2017, Sylvester boarded a cruise ship headed to the Pacific Islands. While on board though, the crew noticed he was acting weird. He kept to himself, barely talked to anyone else, and housekeeping claimed that he never unpacked his bags. The only charge on his bill was the occasional soft drink he would order to his room. Also, every time the cruise made a stop, he never left the ship. Then somewhere between Fiji and the final port Sydney, crew noticed that he was missing. No one knows what happened to him. And the ship's CCTV footage revealed nothing. It's sad, but theory goes that Butler jumped off the ship and took his own life. Apparently he suffered from a chronic genetic kidney disease, so maybe he wanted to end his suffering, but we don't know for sure. On top of that, I believe that his body was never found. Coming in our second spot today, we have the Stronsay Beast. The Stronsay Beast is the name given to a massive carcass that washed ashore on Stronsay Island on September of 1808. At first, people thought it was just the body of a shark, but this creature had paws instead of fins. So then people were hella confused. Not only that, but it was 55 feet long. But part of its tail was missing, so clearly this thing was even bigger than that. This beast was described as follows, and I quote, "Its flesh was described as being like coarse, ill-colored beef, entirely covered with fat and tallow, and without the least resemblance or affinity to fish. The skin, which was gray-colored and had an elastic texture, was said to be about 2 inches thick in parts." End quote. Not only that, but its bristles glowed in the dark when wet, and the contents in its stomach were red. So what is this beast? The Natural History Society of Edinburgh believes that it is a sea serpent of some sorts. Maybe the Loch Ness Monster or its long-lost brother, who knows. And in our number one spot today, we have the Orang Medan. So this next mystery is pretty freaking creepy, I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna keep you up at night. So in 1947, 2 American ships received a distress call from the ship the Orang Medan. The SOS call was from a crew member that stated everyone on board the ship had died. Then all of a sudden, his SOS ended with his last message being, "I die." When the ships arrived, they found the ship completely unharmed. The entire crew, including a dog on board, had died. Everyone had a terrified look plastered on their face. No one knows what happened to the ship.
In our number one spot, we have the goblin shark. When this shark was discovered, surely everyone was terrified. It literally looks like a goblin trapped in a shark body. This creature is one of the most scary looking deep sea creatures that I have ever seen. Apparently they can be as long as 4 meters, but some hypothesize that they can be longer. They have very long snouts and protruding mouths that hold many teeth that contribute to their scariness. They can crush their prey, such as shellfish, easily with their teeth. They can eat a fish whole, and that is usually what their diet consists of: rat tails and dragonfishes. They can weigh up to 460 pounds. Their lifespan is quite long at 30 to 35 years. Even though it looks quite terrifying, it does have a flabby body with small fins, so it can have quite sluggish.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the Nina. The Nina was a ship that was once the flagship of the New York Yacht Club, but that unfortunately changed in 2013 when it disappeared on the Tasman seas with its owner and 6 other people on board. The ship had left New Zealand and was bound for Australia on May 29th, and it was estimated to be somewhere from an 8 to 10 day trip. The last time the ship was heard from was on June 4th, and it wasn't until June 12th that the search for the ship began after friends and family of those on board began to get worried as the ship was now a few days overdue. The rescuers searched until it was called off on July 6th after they had searched 737,000 square nautical miles and had found nothing. The search was extremely thorough and they still were unable to find anything. No yacht, no debris, no life raft, and none of the people on board. The last communications with the Nina came on June 3rd and 4th as a crew member was contacting a meteorologist and router for Pacific cruisers in order to get some advice on on where the ship should go so as to escape a nasty storm they were encountering. There was also an undelivered text message from June 4th that the satellite phone company was able to retrieve that stated that the storm sails had been shredded the night before and that they would update them later at 6 p.m. with the course info. This definitely wasn't an ideal situation, but the message didn't signal that they would have been in immediate distress either. Aside from these messages, there wasn't any other contact that seemed to have been attempted, despite the ship being well equipped with emergency radios, flares, a satellite phone, and all of that sort of thing. Right now, the best guess as to what happened is that the ship may have sunk really quickly following the storms, and it didn't allow any time for the passengers to activate any of the emergency equipment, but at the end of the day, this is all just a guess, and what exactly happened out there still remains a mystery. In our number 9 spot today, we have the mysterious whale die-off. Between 2015 and 2016, there was a mysterious large die-off of whales located in the Gulf of Alaska. The deaths first began to be discovered in late May of 2015 when the carcasses of endangered fin whales were found floating near Kodiak. The total of whales found in the area climbed to 30, with additional reports of 5 other whales found in the waters just off of British Columbia. Because of the difficulties in retrieving the past whales, it was almost impossible to find out what exactly was causing this. The leading suspect was a toxin being produced by algae, but when one of the carcasses that researchers were able to recover was tested, it came up negative for the toxin that they were searching for. It is possible that the decomposition that had already taken place was the cause for this negative test, but it's also equally as possible that this just wasn't the cause in the first place. The good news is that since 2016, this strange and upsetting anomaly has stopped, so the whales are safe. But unfortunately, we aren't any closer to getting answers on what exactly happened here.
A sponge that traps prey like a little death ball was found deep under the Southern Ocean, and dozens of other new species joined it. In August 2025, the Ocean Census Workshop confirmed 30 new species from remote Southern Ocean areas. One of them, a spherical predatory sponge covered in hooks used to trap prey. Sponges are usually passive filter feeders. This one is actively predatory. This deep region remains profoundly undersampled, as stated by scientists. It tells us that even in places already explored, we're still finding major life history surprises. In one of Earth's most extreme places, scientists found a creature built to kill. The discovery was an amphipod species. Dulcibella camanchaca was formally described in 2024 and 2025. It lives around 8,000 meters in the Atacama Trench near Chile. This little critter is not your average scavenger. It's built with appendages suited to capture prey, living in an environment where most life is assumed to be slow, sparse, and passive. The fact it thrives that deep and hunts actively changes how we see life at depth. It means complex predator-prey systems can exist even in the darkest, highest pressure places. It also raises questions about deep-sea biodiversity and how much more is out there. A ship that sailed hundreds of years ago lies at a depth humans rarely reach, and its discovery rewrites maritime archaeology underwater. In March 2025, the French Navy found a 16th century merchant shipwreck, provisionally called Camarat 4, more than 2,500 meters deep off the coast of France. The ship is 30 meters long, well preserved, equipped with cannons, empty stern, raising questions about cargo, route, why it sank. Archaeology under deep water is extremely hard, yet this find shows that deep-sea sites hold well-preserved time capsules of human history. It opens up new dimensions of underwater discovery beyond biology or geology. At nearly 10,000 meters depth, where pressure is crushing and sunlight non-existent, life not only exists, but thrives. A 2025 expedition to the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench and nearby trenches found tube worms, mollusks, and other fauna at over 31,000 feet, which is around 9,500 meters. This challenges the prevailing view that only microbes or extremely sparse life can live that deep. Instead, we see ecosystems that appear more substantial. It broadens the depth range where we expect ecosystem activity and forces us to rethink how biological energy systems operate at extreme depths, feeding off carbon, seepage, microbes, not sunlight. Hundreds of creatures we've never seen are now known, and they're hiding in plain sight beneath the waves. In one of the largest biological surveys in ocean history, the collaborative Nippon Foundation Nekton Ocean Census announced 866 new marine species identified from undersampled regions around the world. Among them were translucent worms, sponge-like organisms with never-before-seen body structures, and even small crustaceans adapted to pressures that would crush metal. The discoveries came from both the deepest trenches and shallow coastal zones that scientists had simply never really cataloged before. These finds prove that we've barely scratched the surface of ocean life. Experts estimate that as much as 80% of marine species remain undiscovered, meaning that every new expedition could rewrite what we think we know about biodiversity on Earth. Between 200 to 400 meters down, where sunlight fades, researchers found bacteria struggling. Not because of lack of food, but because of lack of iron. A study in 2024 in the Pacific found that in the so-called twilight zone, which is about 200 to 1,000 meters, iron concentrations were extremely low. Bacteria there secrete molecules to grab iron, even though light is absent. This overturns assumptions that microbial life in that zone operates in the same way as near-surface waters. It also changes how we think about carbon cycling, because these microbes help break down organic matter, which affects how carbon is stored in the deep ocean. So something tiny like iron deficiency has global implications. Scientists discovered that the deep ocean floor can produce oxygen, even in total darkness, without sunlight, without plants. That flips a major assumption on its head. In the Clarion-Clipperton zone in the Pacific, polymetallic nodules, those potato-sized rocks loaded with metals, were found to generate oxygen via a geochemical process, perhaps electrolysis driven by natural voltages on the seafloor. The idea that rocks, not plants, might produce oxygen at 4,000 meter depths blows up the textbook. If oxygen can form this way, maybe we've been underestimating where aerobic life could exist, even on other worlds. It also challenges assumptions of how the deep ocean cycles nutrients and supports life. Under 200 meters of ice, scientists found what looks like a city of fish nests. In the Weddell Sea off Antarctica, beneath an ice shelf that has long hidden the sea floor, researchers discovered more than 1,000 circular nests of the fish species yellowfin nodi. These weren't scattered randomly. They were arranged in sweeping curves and clusters, like neighborhoods on the sea floor. The nests were cleared of detritus and organized, suggesting the fish built them intentionally for the protection of eggs and community benefit. We assumed these parts of the Antarctic sea floor were barren or simple. Instead, we find complex, organized animal behavior in one of the harshest climates on the planet. It definitely strengthens the case to protect these regions. Bigger than a blue whale and visible from space, a massive coral colony that had been quietly growing for centuries was finally brought to light. In late 2024, scientists from National Geographic Pristine Seas discovered in the Solomon Islands a solitary coral of the species Pavona clavis, measuring about 34 meters wide, 32 meters long, and over 5 meters high. Researchers estimated its age to be between 300 and 500 years old, making it one of the oldest living organisms on the planet. What's even more incredible is how it survived centuries of storms, warming seas, and human activity. This discovery reveals that some coral species may have hidden refuges in deeper, cooler waters, potential safe havens against climate change. It also shows that life in the ocean can grow larger, older, and more resilient than anyone expected.